The alert came through federal law enforcement channels at 2:14 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. A witness intimidation suspect had been positively identified in Kansas City. That single sighting triggered a cascade of notifications across 3 states and 7 jurisdictions. 43 witnesses whose testimony had put criminals behind bars were suddenly at potential risk, and the man who'd threatened them all was now located and moving through a city where at least 6 of those witnesses currently lived. The suspect had been operating for 18 months as a professional witness intimidator. Criminals hired him after conviction to terrorize the witnesses who testified against them. His methods were sophisticated. He researched his targets thoroughly. He learned their routines, their families, their vulnerabilities. Then, he made contact in ways that were threatening, but carefully designed to avoid direct criminal liability. His targets received messages, photos of their homes, details about their children's schools, information about where they worked, and when they traveled alone. The messages never contained explicit threats, just information, demonstrating that he knew everything about their lives. The implication was clear. Testifying had consequences, and those consequences could materialize at any time. 3 federal cases had been compromised by his activities. Witnesses recanted testimony. Others disappeared before trial. Some sought witness protection at enormous cost to federal resources. The suspect operated across state lines, which complicated jurisdiction and made coordinating pursuit difficult. He stayed mobile, never remaining in one location long enough for law enforcement to establish effective surveillance. But Thursday afternoon, everything changed. A federal agent conducting an unrelated investigation spotted him at a coffee shop in Kansas City. Visual identification was confirmed through facial recognition. The agent maintained surveillance while backup was mobilized, and simultaneously, alert protocols activated across multiple jurisdictions where his known targets lived. The witness protection coordinator at the U.S. Marshal Service received the alert immediately. Her database contained profiles of 43 witnesses who'd been threatened by this suspect. She began systematic notification. Each witness needed to be contacted, security assessed, protective measures implemented, and all of this needed to happen before the suspect could reach any of them. Kansas City presented unique complications. 6 of the 43 threatened witnesses lived in the metropolitan area. 3 had testified in federal drug trafficking cases, 2 in organized crime prosecutions, 1 in a white-collar fraud case involving corrupt officials. All had received threats from the suspect within the past year. None knew he was currently in their city. The coordination began immediately. Kansas City field office marshals received assignments for each witness: contact, assess, secure. In cases where threat level was highest, witnesses would be relocated to safe houses immediately. For others, enhanced security at their homes and workplaces would be implemented. The operation required speed and discretion, alerting witnesses without creating panic, protecting them without disrupting their lives more than necessary. Meanwhile, surveillance teams tracked the suspect through Kansas City. He left the coffee shop at 2:47 p.m., drove a rental car registered under a false name to a motel on the city's east side, checked in using fake identification, carried a laptop bag and small suitcase into his room, then closed the curtains and disappeared from external observation. Tactical teams positioned around the motel. The room had 1 door and 1 window. Both were monitored. But marshals needed more information before executing arrest. Was he working alone? Did he have weapons? What was his current mission in Kansas City? Rushing the arrest could compromise intelligence about his network and upcoming targets. Digital surveillance began on his devices. The laptop in his room connected to the motel Wi-Fi. Federal analysts intercepted the traffic. His searches were chilling. 4 of the 6 Kansas City witnesses appeared in his browser history. He'd been researching their current addresses, employment locations, and family members. He was planning approaches, not random visits. That intelligence accelerated the protection timeline. The 4 witnesses he'd been researching were now highest priority. Marshal teams were dispatched to each location immediately. 2 witnesses were at work. 1 was home with children. The 4th was traveling and needed to be contacted before returning. The first witness contacted was a woman who testified against a drug trafficking organization. Her testimony had been crucial in convicting 5 members, including the organization's regional leader. She'd received threats for months after the trial. Photos of her daughter's elementary school, messages describing her daily commute. She'd reported everything to authorities, but lived in constant fear. Marshals arrived at her workplace at 3:23 p.m. She was escorted from the building discreetly and briefed in a secure vehicle. The suspect was in Kansas City. He'd been researching her specifically. She needed to come into protective custody immediately, while marshals determined his intentions and executed arrest. She broke down. The nightmare she'd been living for a year had intensified, but marshals were prepared. Within 30 minutes, she and her daughter were en route to a safe house outside the city. The second witness was a man who testified in an organized crime case. His testimony had exposed money laundering operations and led to racketeering convictions. The threats against him had been particularly aggressive. His car had been vandalized. His home security system had been hacked and disabled. He'd received calls at work from untraceable numbers warning him that cooperation with law enforcement had consequences. Marshals located him at a construction site where he worked as a project manager. The site was open and public. Dozens of workers, heavy equipment. The suspect could theoretically access the location without raising immediate suspicion. The witness was pulled from the site and informed of the situation. He was angry and frightened. Angry that the threats continued. Frightened that they might finally be carried out. He agreed to temporary relocation and contacted his family to arrange their protection as well. The third witness had testified in a public corruption case. Local officials had been taking bribes from developers. The witness was a municipal employee who documented the corruption and provided evidence that led to multiple convictions. The threats against him had included professional retaliation, false allegations about his work performance, anonymous tips to regulators about supposed misconduct, psychological warfare designed to destroy his career and reputation. He was home when marshals arrived. His wife and 2 children were present. The briefing occurred in their living room. The suspect was in Kansas City, researching him. The family needed to relocate immediately. They had 2 hours to pack essentials. A safe house was being prepared. The disruption was enormous but necessary. They began packing while marshals secured the perimeter and coordinated transportation. The 4th witness was traveling for work. She testified in a fraud case and received threats that escalated to stalking. Someone had followed her to work repeatedly. Her phone received calls that hung up immediately. Her mail had been tampered with. She'd filed multiple police reports, but the threats continued. Now she was in another city on business, scheduled to return to Kansas City that evening. Marshals contacted her by phone. Her return flight was canceled. She was instructed to remain where she was while alternative arrangements were made. A local Marshal unit would meet her at her hotel and provide protection until she could be safely transported away from Kansas City. She was terrified, but cooperative. The business trip became indefinite protective custody. While witness protection operations proceeded, surveillance of the suspect continued. At 5:34 p.m., he emerged from his motel room. He returned his laptop bag to the vehicle. He drove to a restaurant where he ate dinner alone while constantly checking his phone. Then, he drove through residential neighborhoods, slowing at addresses that matched 2 of the witness locations. The pattern was reconnaissance. He was confirming addresses, studying approach routes, identifying security measures. His behavior indicated he was preparing for operational activity, not simply gathering information. The decision was made to arrest him before he could complete his planning and potentially approach any witnesses. The arrest was planned for when he returned to the motel. Tactical teams would execute room entry, maximum force authorized, given his history of threatening law enforcement personnel and potential for armed resistance. Federal prosecutors were briefed and charges prepared. Witness intimidation across state lines, conspiracy, interstate stalking, violations of federal witness protection statutes. The charges would ensure lengthy incarceration, but the arrest timing became urgent when surveillance detected a concerning development. At 8:17 p.m., the suspect made a phone call that lasted 4 minutes. Digital intercept revealed he was speaking with an associate in another state. The conversation was coded, but clear enough. He was coordinating additional intimidation activities. Other witnesses in other jurisdictions were being targeted simultaneously. This revelation transformed the operation. The Kansas City arrest was no longer an isolated event. It was part of a coordinated witness intimidation campaign operating across multiple states. Alert protocols expanded. All 43 witnesses in the database needed immediate protection, not just the Kansas City 6, all of them, across 7 jurisdictions. Before associated suspects could reach them, the cascade intensified. U.S. Marshals Service activated protection operations in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois. Field offices mobilized. Witness protection specialists contacted targets. Local police assisted with residential security. FBI coordinated intelligence sharing about the suspect's network. The operation expanded from one arrest to a nationwide response. Resources strained under the sudden demand. 43 witnesses required contact, assessment, and varying levels of protection. Some needed full relocation. Others required enhanced security at existing locations. A few were already in witness protection, but needed security upgrades. Each situation required individual assessment and rapid implementation. Coordination challenges multiplied. 7 states meant 7 sets of protocols, different agencies, different resources, different levels of preparation. The Marshal Service provided central coordination, but execution depended on local capabilities and cooperation. Some jurisdictions responded immediately with comprehensive plans. Others struggled with limited resources and required federal assistance. At 9:03 p.m., Kansas City tactical teams executed the arrest at the motel. The suspect was in his room working on his laptop. The entry was rapid and overwhelming. He offered no resistance. He was secured, searched, and transported to federal custody. His laptop, phones, and documents were seized as evidence. The digital forensics revealed the full scope of his operation: detailed files on all 43 witnesses, research notes about their vulnerabilities, communication records with multiple associates across the country, payment records showing who'd hired him for each intimidation campaign. The evidence was overwhelming and would lead to additional arrests in coming weeks, but the immediate priority remained witness protection. Even with the primary suspect in custody, his network remained operational. Associates had information about witnesses and had been coordinating simultaneous approaches. Those threats needed to be neutralized before anyone could be harmed. By midnight Thursday, 37 of the 43 witnesses had been contacted and secured. 6 remained unreachable. Marshal teams were searching for them. Family members were contacted. Employers checked. Known associates questioned. The 6 missing witnesses created extreme urgency. Were they simply unreachable through normal channels? Or had something already happened? Friday morning brought relief and continued concern. 5 of the 6 missing witnesses were located. 1 had been camping without cell service. 2 had changed phones, and contact information hadn't been updated. Another was in the hospital for routine surgery and hadn't been reachable. The 5th had traveled internationally for work. All 5 were contacted, briefed, and secured with appropriate protection levels. The 6th witness remained missing. She testified in a drug case 2 years earlier. Threats had been ongoing. She'd relocated independently without notifying authorities. Her last known address was vacant. Her former employer said she'd quit months ago. Family members hadn't heard from her in weeks. Whether she was hiding from threats or something worse had occurred remained unknown. Search efforts continued for the missing witness. Investigators checked databases for any activity: financial records, phone records, social media, anything indicating her current location or status. The search became a separate investigation within the larger operation. Finding her was critical, both for her safety and for understanding whether the suspect's network had already claimed a victim. The suspect's interrogation revealed his methodology, but not his network's full structure. He acknowledged operating across multiple states. He confirmed being hired by criminals seeking revenge against witnesses, but he refused to identify specific associates or upcoming operations. His attorney advised silence on anything that might incriminate co-conspirators. Federal prosecutors assembled the case from seized evidence. The laptop contained everything needed for multiple convictions. Communication records identified associates. Financial transactions showed payments and criminal conspiracy. Witness statements documented the threats and their impact. The case was comprehensive, even without the suspect's cooperation. Charges were filed in federal court. Multiple counts of witness tampering, interstate stalking, conspiracy, use of interstate commerce to facilitate threats. Each count carried significant prison time. Combined, he faced decades in federal custody. Bail was denied. He would remain detained throughout prosecution. The associate mentioned in the intercepted phone call was identified through voice analysis and phone records. Arrest warrants were issued. He was located in Oklahoma and taken into custody by local marshals. His arrest prevented planned approaches to 3 witnesses in that jurisdiction. Additional evidence from his devices revealed more network members. Over the following 2 weeks, 7 more associates were arrested across 4 states. Each arrest disrupted planned witness intimidation activities. Each defendant provided additional evidence through seized devices and documents. The network that had operated across state lines for 18 months was systematically dismantled. The 42 located witnesses gradually returned to their lives with enhanced security. Some remained in safe houses temporarily. Others received upgraded home security systems. All had direct contact channels to local marshals for immediate response if threats resumed. The psychological impact of the ordeal would require ongoing support through victim assistance programs. The missing witness was eventually located in a different state, living under a new identity. She'd fled the threats and rebuilt her life independently. She was terrified to learn the suspect had been in Kansas City, potentially targeting her relatives. Marshal contact provided both relief that he was in custody and concern that her hidden life might now be exposed. Arrangements were made to maintain her privacy while ensuring her safety. The cascade effect of that single Kansas City sighting had protected dozens of people who'd done nothing wrong except testify truthfully in criminal cases. The suspect's arrest and network dismantlement prevented unknown numbers of intimidation incidents that had been planned, and the coordination demonstrated that federal law enforcement could respond effectively across jurisdictions when witnesses faced organized threats. But the case also exposed systemic vulnerabilities. Witness protection resources were stretched thin. Surveillance of known threats was difficult across state lines. Coordination between jurisdictions required significant effort and time. Budget constraints, limited proactive protection measures. The system worked when activated, but operated reactively rather than preventatively. Policy discussions emerged about improving witness protection, increased funding for long-term security, better coordination systems between jurisdictions, enhanced monitoring of convicted criminals' associates, stricter penalties for witness intimidation. Each proposal addressed aspects of the problem, but implementation required political will and resources. For the witnesses who'd been threatened, the arrests brought relief, but not complete resolution. Fear didn't disappear with custody of suspects. Trust in the justice system had been undermined by months or years of threats. Resuming normal life required psychological recovery as much as physical security. Victim assistance programs provided counseling and support, but healing would take time. The criminals who'd hired the intimidation network faced additional consequences. Evidence from the suspect's devices documented who'd paid for which threats against which witnesses. Those criminals, already serving sentences, faced new federal charges for witness tampering from behind prison walls. Their sentences would be extended. Their parole eligibility would be eliminated. The message was clear. Threatening witnesses had severe consequences, even from prison. The case became training material for law enforcement agencies. How to identify professional witness intimidation operations, how to coordinate multi-jurisdiction responses, how to protect dispersed witnesses simultaneously, how to dismantle criminal networks operating across state lines. Every element was documented and converted into protocols for future operations. For U.S. Marshals who worked the operation, success was measured not just in arrests, but in prevented harm. 43 witnesses had been targeted. 8 had been under immediate threat in Kansas City. None had been harmed. The network had been dismantled. The cascade of alerts and responses had functioned as designed. The system had protected those who'd shown courage to testify against criminals. The suspect remained in federal custody, awaiting trial. His network members faced similar prosecution timelines. The evidence against all defendants was substantial. Plea negotiations would likely reduce some charges, but significant prison terms were certain. Their careers as professional witness intimidators had ended. The witnesses gradually rebuilt their sense of security. Some relocated permanently to new cities with new identities. Others remained in their communities with enhanced awareness and protection. A few continued to receive counseling for anxiety and hypervigilance that persisted despite the threat's elimination. Recovery was personal and occurred at different paces. The missing witness who'd been located chose to remain in her new life. The past couldn't be erased, but she could maintain the fresh start she'd built. Marshal contact remained available if she ever needed assistance. Her courage to testify years earlier had contributed to justice. Her need for safety was respected, even as authorities ensured she remained protected. The case demonstrated that organized witness intimidation was a serious and growing problem. Professional criminals understood that terrorizing witnesses could undermine prosecutions even after conviction. The willingness to pay others to conduct intimidation created a market that attracted people willing to threaten law-abiding citizens who'd participated in the justice system. But the case also demonstrated that the system could respond effectively when alerts triggered properly, when agencies coordinated seamlessly, when resources were mobilized rapidly, when witnesses were protected before harm occurred. The Kansas City sighting had triggered a cascade that saved lives and demonstrated that witness protection could function across complex jurisdictions. For one Thursday afternoon, a single identification at a coffee shop had set in motion operations spanning 7 states, 43 witnesses, and dozens of law enforcement personnel. The Cascade had worked. The witnesses were safe, the suspects were captured, and the message was sent that threatening witnesses would not succeed and would not go unpunished.